All right. Hello again, adventurers, and welcome to another exciting daily vlog. This is daily vlog 2025, number 185. And today, since we've been talking about video games recently, it actually got me thinking about something that was a really big part of, well, it still is a really big part of my life, and that is D&D video games. I was first introduced to the world of Dungeons and Dragons through a video game called Dark Sun Shattered Lands when I was like 5. If anyone is unfamiliar with this game, it was a bit of a buggy mess, but it was a DOS-based D&D second edition game set in the world of Dark Sun. And it is still one of my favorite games, bugs and all. You can still play it today. It's abandonware, so if you want to try and set up your own DOSBox emulator or something and run it yourself, you can do that. I went the route of on GOG.com, good old games. You can actually buy Dark Sun and the sequel, and the executable is pre-bundled with a version of DOSBox that is a DOSBox that is specifically designed to run the game, and it runs well. Full screen has some issues every so often, but when I play it full screen, it's on a 4K monitor. So that may be why it doesn't run super well, but Windows, it runs absolutely perfectly. And it's got, like, there were multiple versions of the Dark Sun video game. This one is the one that came with all, like, it has music included and cutscenes and all this other stuff. So, in my personal opinion, it is the best version of the game. And it's absolutely amazing. And like I said, it was my first introduction to Dungeons and Dragons. Later on, I would go to play things like Neverwinter Nights, the Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance series. I really, really loved. Both of those you can play now on PCs and consoles and things like that, because they made remastered versions of them that, again, play well for the games that they are. Neither of the games are, let's say, exceptional, but they're fun. And you know, they are what they are. They were Diablo clones, but they're still fun. And then later on, you know, getting into things like the Neverwinter MMO and Dungeons and Dragons Online, and like there are, and then, you know, going back, eventually I started playing some of the gold box games as well, which were where a lot of people started learning about Dungeons and Dragons. And then there were things like Dungeon Hack. I used to love Dungeon Hack, and the Eye of the Beholder series. Like, D&D video games have been around for a really, really long time. But something that's kind of interesting about D&D video games, the vast majority of them play nothing like D&D. Oh, and I guess I should also mention the Baldur's Gate series and Planescape Torment and Icewind Dale, you know, all those things, really, really big popular games that were all Dungeons and Dragons based. Like I said before, the majority of D&D video games don't actually emulate the experience of playing Dungeons and Dragons. Even the ones that get close, things like the old gold box games, were relatively close because they did use the same kind of character creation system, and they kind of adapted most of the rules. They still really didn't feel like playing D&D. They felt like combat simulators that used some of the combat from D&D and then told an interesting story. And then you start getting into things like, again, the Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance series plays nothing like Dungeons and Dragons. Neverwinter doesn't play like Dungeons and Dragons in any way, shape, or form. D&D Online kind of in the same boat. Daggerheart, or was it? I can't remember. There was a D&D game that had Dagger in the name, and it wasn't Daggerheart. It was Dagger something. Anyway, and when you look just like, or like Eye of the Beholder plays nothing like Dungeons and Dragons. It's a first-person dungeon crawler. And all these other things like, and again, even if you look at something like Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, they really don't play like Dungeons and Dragons. They use it as an inspiration, and they do use a lot of the mechanics from the game, but because of the Infinity Engine, they don't play anything like Dungeons and Dragons. They're not incredibly strategic as much as they are a little bit more action oriented. Yeah, you're still like extremely limited in what you can do. To date, the game that has most closely mimicked actually playing Dungeons and Dragons was Baldur's Gate 3, and everyone was blown away with it, not just because it was a good game, but because it's the first game in like 40 years that has actually gotten close to making you feel like you're playing Dungeons and Dragons. And a lot of these Dungeons and Dragons based games were really, really popular and still are. Like, people still love Baldur's Gate 1 and 2. I still really, really enjoy the Dark Alliance series and Neverwinter Nights. I'm hoping to be able to get the Neverwinter Nights 2 remaster, because I used to really enjoy that game as well. So it got me to thinking, what is the point of a D&D video game? And to kind of get it to a bit of a larger topic, what's the point of a TTRPG video game? Because it's not really meant to, the majority of them are not really meant to mimic the feeling of playing a TTRPG. So what is it that draws people to these things? Because while D&D has a lot of video games, it is by far not the only tabletop RPG that has been turned into a video game. You have the Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, which is incredibly popular, plays nothing like the game. It's a first-person shooter RPG kind of hybrid thing. That is an incredibly great game, but it plays nothing like Vampire the Masquerade. It's very combat-oriented and just nothing like Vampire the Masquerade. You have, I think there's 3 Pathfinder games, which, to my understanding, are actually pretty close to Pathfinder. The big difference being, because again, Pathfinder is just massively crunchy. You don't have to do any of the math when you're playing the video games, which in my opinion makes the video games more fun than the tabletop game. Yeah, there was a werewolf video game that came out, plays nothing like werewolf. Torment, Tides of Numenera, plays nothing like Numenera. Numenera is a phenomenally interesting tabletop RPG. I use the base system that powers it, the Cypher system, for my Zelda game on Saturdays, which we will be playing tomorrow. So if you want to see me running some Cypher system Zelda nonsense, it's twitch.tv/Zelda Universe TV. So what is it about these TTRPG video games that makes people enjoy them if it's not recreating the feel of playing a tabletop RPG? And I don't have a great answer for it. Like I said, like the reason that I like Dark Sun Shattered Lands is not because AD&D Second Edition is like super awesome, my favorite thing in the world. It's really not. I've never been a huge fan of Second Edition. It's not that it's a bad system. I just don't enjoy it. It's a very limited system compared to a lot of the TTRPGs that I play, which is true of most older TTRPGs. It's one of the reasons it's one of the reasons I like the Cypher system, because it's very, very open and you can create really any kind of character that you want. Daggerheart is deceptively limiting, because I have been able to go in and create some kind of interesting characters, but it doesn't quite have the expansive ability to make weird stuff that I would enjoy. Trying to think of other systems that I really, really enjoy. Fabula Ultima is just crazy open and fun to do crazy stuff with. The Essence 20 system, you can do a remarkable amount of things as long as they fit into one of the genres that the games are created for. And those are the kind of things that I really, really enjoy. And so going back to Dark Sun, the thing that I love about, first of all, is nostalgia. And second of all, I just really enjoy kind of the aesthetic of everything. Like, I like the post-apocalyptic desert world. I like kind of the feeling of hopelessness and then triumphing over that hopelessness. That is kind of inherent in the Dark Sun campaign setting in general. Like, everything is out there to kill you. The deck is massively stacked against you, but you can succeed. And when you do succeed, it feels really, really good. So those are the things that I really, really enjoy about that. Things like Neverwinter Nights. The thing that I enjoy about Neverwinter Nights, to be blunt, is building interesting characters and then watching them interact with the world, which I guess is kind of D&D-esque. But things like Dungeons & Dragons Online, I have something like 350 hours logged in D&D Online. And the reason, and I play the same damn adventures over and over and over again. And it's not the fact that 3rd edition is like the best version of D&D ever. If anyone doesn't know, D&D Online uses a modified version of the 3rd edition rules to great effect. There are things like, one of the things I love about D&D Online that never happened in 3rd edition or Pathfinder is, depending on the like subclasses you choose in the game, you can make it so that your attack rolls and damage rolls can use whatever stat you want them to, as opposed to D&D 3rd edition, where melee damage is always strength, and accuracy checks are, for weapons in general, are always either strength or dexterity. So if you're a dexterity based character that's using finesse weapons, you have to have a good strength score, because that's the you cannot get dexterity to be added to your damage, which you can do in 4th and 5th edition. So DDO fixes that, where you can have melee weapons that use intelligence for attack and damage if you choose the right upgrades and things like that. So anyway, so yeah, like, the reason that I keep playing D&D Online and replaying the same damn adventures over and over again is because I really love the environments and the stories that are built into these. Like, I have played through the Temple of Elemental Evil on D&D Online probably at this point 2 or 3 dozen times, because it's a level 8 adventure in there, and leveling in D&D Online doesn't quite work like it does in like World of Warcraft. Basically, every level you have 4 like mini levels inside of it. So getting to level 8 is not actually just going up 8 levels. It's closer to like level 40. But max level right now is 34. So there's a lot Like it's still relatively early in the game. It's one of the earlier adventure modules that you can get to. Um, so yeah, like I enjoy the aesthetic of the Temple of Elemental Evil. I love the story of it. I love like the different characters that you encounter in there. And the dungeons themselves are really iconic, and most of them are fun. The Wind Elemental node in Dungeons and Dragons Online is a pain in the ass because they just turn gravity down in a few of the rooms, and you have to do these weird floaty jumps to a bunch of different places, and it's just really annoying. But other than that, it's massively fun. And I start realizing, like, the reason that I enjoy, you know, the Dark Alliance series is because the stories are fun, and Baldur's Gate in itself is an interesting place. And dealing with this stuff is interesting. Dark Sun Shattered Land, you know, fighting your way out of Tyr, and then joining the Veiled Alliance and going to the various different cities around Tyr to fight against whatever the Sorcerer King's name in that is really, really fun. And some of the kind of subquests, like there's an entire city that you can find that is populated entirely by shadows. And there's a whole bit of lore about how this city used to be this amazing city during the Blue Age, and then because of everything that happened, the population kind of sacrificed themselves to become shadows, which effectively gave them eternal life, but also cursed them to being shadows for the rest of existence. And so you have to kind of deal with the aftermath of that. Or there's another area where you go into these tunnels and you find these spiders that, if I remember correctly, were experimented on by one of the lieutenants of a Sorcerer King and basically gained sentience. And now there's this internal struggle between these two groups of spiders. And you can ally with one of them, with either of them if you want. Or you can become enemies with all of them and just wipe them out. And allying with different groups get you different things. And it's a really, really fun, interesting game. And the fact that it uses Dungeons and Dragons is kind of a little bonus. It's fun that it's a Dungeons and Dragons game, but for the most part, I like Dark Sun. I like the Temple of Elemental Evil or Ravenloft. That's another thing that DDO does really, really well. They have a Ravenloft module, which is literally the Curse of Strahd. Like, I have run Curse of Strahd. I own the book. I've gone through it many, many times. It is literally Curse of Strahd. They have just about everything from the book in this one module, and it's so phenomenally good. And again, it's not the fact that it's Dungeons and Dragons. It's just the fact that it's Ravenloft and it's fun. So yeah, like I said, there is obviously there's some drama going on about like video games in general, not just the Stop Killing Games stuff, but I mean, tons of stuff is going on. There were layoffs at Microsoft, that a bunch of games got canceled. You know, video games in general have been doing relatively poorly the last few years, with quite a few really, really big titles bombing epically. And it just got me thinking about the idea of like D&D video games. We really haven't had a good D&D video game in, other than Baldur's Gate 3, in a decade. And I guess you could say Solasta too, because Solasta is a phenomenal game. If you've never played Solasta, it was Baldur's Gate 3 before Baldur's Gate 3. And if you compare it to Baldur's Gate 3, it's not as good, but it's still a great game. And they have a Temple of Elemental Evil mod for Solasta, so I am constantly going to be singing its praise. And they're coming out with Solasta 2, which looks even better. Yeah, I'm interested to hear from you guys. First of all, do you like TTRPG video games? And I'm not talking about video games that mimic a TTRPG. I mean specifically video games that are based on some kind of tabletop RPG, whether that's World of Darkness or Dungeons and Dragons or Pathfinder or whatever. Do you like them? If you do like them, do you have a favorite TTRPG based video game? And if you would like to share, what is it about that game that you enjoy so much? Is it the fact that it feels very similar to how playing that TTRPG works? Or it feels like what you want the game to feel like? Or is it something completely different? Let me know in the comments down below. Otherwise, again, that is all for me today. I will see you guys next time. All right? Bye-bye.